Hello everyone, just give me a second, just trying to toggle some settings, and then we can start in a bit. Alrighty, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for this session. So I'm just going to start real quick. Sorry, really bad with technology, and I'm hoping this works. So hopefully you'll be seeing on the screen. And I'll just be walking you through today on this session of purpose and personal branding. I think everyone's really excited about this term of purpose. And I hope to give you some tips as well as a framework on how to embrace your journey of finding your purpose in personal branding. It's not always easy. In fact, I hardly think it's easy. But hopefully, with a bit of prompting, you'll be able to be on your way on your journey, a bit surer on how to embrace this idea of purpose in your life, while still finding, like something that makes sense for you. So to begin with, I think I'll just introduce myself actually. So I'm just gonna, it's not showing the screen. Well, just give me a sec. Lovely. So this is just me on the left-hand side. It's actually me in the Global Youth Summit 2019 when we were in Zurich. So that's just a cheeky little photo about me. So I just worked on 3 different things this year, and I thought it'd be interesting to share. So I'm really passionate about sustainability, and so I was co-hosting the New Zealand Sustainable Development Goals Summit within my University of Auckland, as well as the Auckland University of Technology. Really combining the thoughts of Indigenous people, the thoughts of the government, students, and youth on what they want to see in the future. I am also director of the Young Sustainability Leaders Program. That's basically a sustainability mentoring program. We pair our students together with an industry specialist that is already doing a lot of work in sustainability, such as Air New Zealand, which is a renowned and international flight company, and as well as KPMG, which is one of the big 4, and they're starting to do a lot of consulting work in sustainability. And lastly, I was co-president of a student organization called ICG. So ICG stands for Impact Consulting Group. We basically use the expertise of university students to do consulting work for nonprofits as well as, for social enterprises actually, and social impact organizations that are really passionate about creating change. And we're just like there to offer them assistance. Each group goes on an 8-week journey together with one of the clients to form some degree of a report or a tool that they can use to maximize their social impact. So I'm very focused in the sustainability scene. That's kind of the work that makes me really, really excited. And I don't know, if you want to geek out about sustainability, just email me after this. I'll give you the details at the end. But I think I would like to start by looking at my life really like 2 years ago. And, it's funny that we talk about purpose because just 2 years ago, I didn't have much of a purpose. In fact, I didn't really think sustainability was for me. And I think that's really everyone's journey when it comes to purpose. You don't start off, being hit by like this sudden realization that you're going to do it. It actually is quite a bit of a journey. You need a little bit of reflection as well to finally be in that zone to say, okay, I think I'm actually going to go down this route and pursue this. So I'm just going to be running you through a framework, or rather what I call a way of thinking, on how have a form of purpose that isn't only you doing great things, but it's also something that honestly the world needs and that can actually pay you. And and we'll just see in just a little bit. But I think to start off, oh gosh, it's doing the thing again. Yeah, like I always ask myself this question, why haven't I found my passion? I was really jealous of other people, and I was always thinking that something was, in a sense, missing. Like it's great that you can have good grades, it's great that you can be with your friends, but when you haven't found your passion, something is missing from your life. It's like a puzzle piece that you're always trying to find. And I hope that through this session, I bring you a bit closer to finding your missing puzzle piece. So just in terms of takeaways, I hope that you take 2 takeaways today. The first is having a framework on purpose. It's a simple way of framing on what's the direction you should be taking in the future and how you should be going about it. And the second is on personal branding with purpose. So when we talk about personal brand, it's basically if people see you and the things that you talk about or you're really excited about, that's your personal brand. It's like you being yourself. Like, how are you unique from other people, and how can we include purpose to really bring you to the next level? Both for employers, for your friends, your family, they're going to be able to see that you're like really living a life of purpose. And I think like you're going to be hit with some truth bombs over here. Some of them you might feel quite uncomfortable, but this is the first one, which is that no one finds their purpose immediately. You need to be prepared to work for it. It might be, maybe you have to talk to quite a few people to realize that's for you. Maybe you have to read some books on it, or maybe one day it's just going to hit you really suddenly and you're going to have to do more research on it. But regardless of what it is, no one actually finds or like develops their purpose really quickly. It's actually a process. And so coming to this session, I guess, with this expectation, not that you're going to find everything at the end of this session, but rather that this is your first step towards something greater, and it's going to be awesome. It's a journey, and appreciate the journey. So firstly, we're going to talk on a framework on purpose, and the 3 questions that I always have been asking myself recently. The first is, am I leading the best life that I could live? And the second is, am I leading a life of purpose? Is this something that's purposeful, with a reason for me to be living the way that I am? And the third is, am I happy with the way my life is? I think it's perfectly okay for us to, feel kind of like terrified with these questions, because really we don't know the answers, and it can be quite scary, I would say, and quite daunting. But that's really life, and this is just our first step. And so I'm just going to present you a simple framework, and you see that I keep using this word framework, but it's really just a cute little diagram. So our ideal life should have 3 things. And this is just my personal idea. The first is balance. We can't have too much fun, but we also can't be too serious in our lives. We can't, we need to feel emotions. We need to develop in all different ways and to feel excited about life. The second is a life of growth, like not seeing life as linear, of you just, once you're perfecting something, that you're the master of everything. Rather, life is just growth. It's kind of like a plant growing. It's a never-ending journey. And third, a life of connection, of being able to resonate and connect with other people, maybe through your work or through this journey of finding your purpose. And so without further ado, I'm just going to be introducing a concept, which is called Ikigai. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means a reason for being. It's basically, why are you here on this earth? Ooh, it's a bit philosophical. It's a bit tough to understand, but I'll be talking you through it in just a bit. So this is basically the Ikigai diagram. Now, don't be afraid. I'm just going to be quickly talking you through it. So basically, Ikigai consists of 4 circles. And the first is what I love. And that's really, so for example, for me, I'm really sustainability focused. So I might love activism, climate activism. That's something that, I really want to take to the streets, let corporates know that, you know what, we need to change something. Governments need to change to make a better world. And the second is what the world needs. Like basically the world might need a better, more sustainable Earth. And that's as a whole, like on the big picture, what the world needs. And what I can be paid for is kind of like, are you doing something where the world will actually say, this is valuable, and I actually want to offer, maybe it might be money, it might be mentoring, so that you can do whatever you want to do. And I think that's one of the hardest things, right? Because a lot of us, we do campaigns, we do a lot of social media advertising, for example, or we set up pages, and we really cover that what I love and what the world needs sort of part. But there's also this dimension that, we need to find something that's financially sustainable, especially like, so for example, I'm Asian, so I can't, I have parents with certain expectations of me, and I can't just say I want to take to the streets every day to protest. Like we have to find something that allows me to explore my love for sustainability, but at the same time is something that is of value to the world, and that in a sense you can be paid for, which I think is an important part of our passion, because that means that the financial sustainability of what we do ensures that we can carry on this passion for a long period of time. We can always explore passion because we're no longer we worry less about our next paycheck. We worry less about, how am I going to carry on with this future. And so that's an important dimension. And the third is what I'm good at. And that's also playing to your strength. What are you really good at? So I'm just going to be talking about these 4 intersections over here, and they're quite different. So what happens is, you're going to see over here, this is the picture of the brain, which signifies this is something that's like logical and the mind. And later on, there's going to be parts that talk about the heart, which is really about the passion part of our lives, that I think like we youth are just so, like we're really excited about bringing to this world. But Ikigai is talking about a combination of both. And I'll just be exploring this right now. So the first part is what I'm good at and what I can be paid for, which is a profession. I think we all know this because our parents are probably in a profession. For example, I'm in university studying accounting and supply chain, really lucky. And what happens is that my profession would, for example, be an accountant. It could also be a consultant. It's something that can pay you, and it's something that's quite aligned with my logical way of thinking and what I'm good at. That's why I'm in accounting in the first place. And the second part is what the world needs and what I can be paid for. So this might be, and that's a vocation, right? So that might be something that I might not be really good at, but it's something that I can do nevertheless. So for example, I'm not really good with my hands, but maybe I'm like a cleaner. Like, having a role of a cleaner is something that the world definitely needs, because, we just need, like very simply speaking, we need to keep places spick and span. And I can be paid for it, but it's not exactly something that I'm good at, if I'm an analytical person, to do something like cleaning. So it is simply a job, I would say. Now we go to the heart, which is the most exciting part, I think, that we you've really love to hear. So there's what I love and what the world needs. And that's your mission, right? That's like the why am I put on this earth sort of a thing. It's the thing that if you could do and not care about money, you would be waking up and really excited and taking to the streets. So for example, what the world needs is an awareness of climate change. And what I love is activism. So maybe I would be a climate change activist, and that could be my mission, right? Like, but again, you don't talk about the money part, which I think is still an important part about fulfilling your passion that not a lot of people talk about. But that's your mission. And it's something that's linked very closely to our heart, to our emotions, to what we feel. And the last part of the intersection is passion. So that's what I love and what I'm good at. So this is quite interesting to talk about. So what I'm good at, let's say, for example, I'm a really analytical person. And what I love is basically, let's say, like protecting the world, protecting the climate. So the passion part could be maybe I would use that data to better inform the next campaign. I would set up maybe I'd set up an initiative where I would use my analytical skills to carry on my climate change activism journey. But would people pay me for that? Oh, I'm not really sure about that. So that's like a passion, right? That's like what we call a side hobby. It's something that you're passionate about, and that you can continue to do, and it follows very strongly with our heart. Well, what Ikigai really talks about is this sweet spot in the middle. It's this center point where you combine your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation into this really amazing center point, this epicenter. So to give an example of me, so I'm Asian, and I come from Singapore/Malaysia, and my parents were really practical, and I think a lot of us would agree that like they would go, you need to be an accountant or a doctor or lawyer, and so in the end I chose to do accounting. And there's nothing right or wrong. It's just like a very popular choice, but it's not something that I would necessarily love to do. And so what I was thinking is, okay, I've kind of like filled up this what I'm good at part. I'm good at the analytical skills and I'm doing accounting right now. But what the world needs is this awareness of climate change that I'm really, really into. And I love spreading this information. And more importantly, I love educating people and helping groups and organizations to advance this climate change agenda, to like ensure people know more information about climate change. So I realized these three was like I kind of have it filled, and I think this was the hardest part of what I can be paid for. I took a lot of time to kind of read and talk to people on like, hey, like how is accounting changing? And like we all know accounting is just about the money, but are we responding to climate change? And boom, that's like kind of like when I realized that accounting was slowly changing to something called sustainability accounting. So like for layman terms, instead of me talking about the what we call the bottom line, like your net income and your EBITDA. These are like just really geeky terms for money. Instead, you're looking at things like emissions. You're looking at things like health and safety. And you are looking at basically different numbers that highlight a different way in which companies are performing. And from there, you can actually go into those companies and say, hey, I don't think you're doing a really good job for this. And I think that the world really needs to work on this climate change agenda. Here are some like, let's work on it. Let's come up with a solution. And so it's kind of an accounting / consulting role that combines my love for sustainability, my what I'm good at in terms of analytical skills, what the world needs in terms of helping businesses to be more sustainable. And finally, it's something that I can be paid for, actually. But this journey really took me 2 years, and it really was very hard. This field is still growing. When I figured it 2 years ago, it's still quite small. It's rapidly growing right now because of all the protests and amazing work and activism. But it takes a lot of time for you to get close to that. So you're going to have to be very active in trying to find these 4 points, and trying to find that sweet spot in Ikigai. It's not always going to come by really quick. Some people are going to take months, maybe even years, because we're just so unsure. But what's important is to kind of be open to these thoughts and maybe start reading or start talking to people. So for example, if you're interested in women empowerment, like we look to examples of leading businesses that work in women empowerment. what are they, why do people pay for their services, and how, like those services, is it something that you're good at the same time? And if it's something that you're good at, can you, like what can you do that's different from them, yet allows you to be paid for it? And that might just become a new business idea, a new initiative. And so that's kind of the way we go about exploring Ikigai. And I think to me, it combines the mind as well as the heart. It's really realistic in the way that it sees social impact. Because in truth, social impact is really hard to do if you don't have a role that really, that pays you just like a living wage, as we call it, enough for you to, continue living day to day, but also to be comfortable enough where you can give your 100% to your work. It's important that we not only talk about this passion side, but we also explore the fact that this can be a job. Like we spend, like when we're probably 20 to 40, we spend most of our lives like working, and like a little bit of that time towards like your volunteering or you with your side projects. So imagine what impact you could create if you actually spend, most of your living life working on an amazing cause that is at the same time something that the world needs. That's Ikigai. It's kind of tough to reach that. But again, I mentioned at the very start, and I'll say it again, it's a journey. You're not meant to do it right now. But that's the tough truth, right? Like we have to slowly get into it. And then we'll slowly be on our way, on our journey to finding Ikigai. Another point is that you can't, it's quite hard to hit all four of them. Sometimes, you might just be finding something that you can be paid for, that the world needs and that you love, but maybe you're just not too good at it. Maybe you need to reskill and redevelop your skills. And so sometimes I think like the goal right now is most of us can probably hit some form of 2 out of the 4 circles. Maybe the next challenge would be to hit 3 out of the 4 circles. And it's this journey, and you have to embrace that journey. So your Ikigai is basically the closest thing that you will find to your true, authentic personal brand. So for example, right now, I'm in my 2nd year of university, but I've managed to secure a previous internship at KPMG in a team called Sustainable Value. So that's a team that entirely works on consulting work for climate change adaptation, for sustainability reporting, and also for green finance. And that's something that's really close to my heart. And I think it's just, I'm getting close to finding my Ikigai in that sense, because even though I'm working long hours, I'm excited every single day to come back to work. I'm finding something new, and it's something that's interesting that I can bring to the table. And that's kind of like, in a sense, why I'm here. That's my truest and most authentic self, that people will look and go, wow, like Pock is actually doing some interesting stuff. I would want to learn from him. So that's the part on Ikigai. And to conclude this section, I thought I'd just end with this little quote, which is that life comes at us in waves. We can't predict or control those waves, but we can learn to surf. And I think like the thing about Ikigai is it's just something you should be mindful of when you carry out your day-to-day, right? We can't always force our lives to the Ikigai model. But sometimes when you ride those waves in life, you might see those opportunities. And when you see those opportunities, try to be open-minded and learn about these opportunities to further your passion, or to find maybe like a business opportunity to further your passion. Just try to keep an open mind and know that fulfilling your Ikigai is almost a lifelong journey. But starting right now, I'm supposing like quite a bit of youths are looking at this. It's better than, like hitting 40 and then kind of going, oh, I'm rich and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm not happy, or, hitting 40 and being in an activist space, or like and kind of like going, this is like, I love what I do, but at the same time, like, I wish I was a bit more logical about how I planned my life out. And like I wish I had a bit more financial sustainability. So there's just like a little framework that kind of encapsulates some of our needs and like our passions. And I think it brings it all very closely together of how we can live our best life. Alrighty, cool. So now we're just gonna look at the second part, which is what I call upskilling to make your ikigai work. So, and I think this applies regardless of whether you hit all four circles of the ikigai. The question that I always have to ask is, do I have the skills to make the change I want to see in this world? Like our world's developing so quickly. Do we have the skills to actually, like to address climate change? We know, for example, the greenhouse effect, but do we really understand why businesses are emitting these greenhouse gases? And what can we do to change that? That requires a lot of knowledge, right, about how corporates run. Or if you're looking at, let's say, women empowerment, we know that that's a change that we want to see. But why does it happen? Like, what's happening in the world that's preventing this from happening? And do you have the skills to not only advocate, but to really convince major people to make that switch? And so that's just a really big question, I guess, that we need to start asking, right? We have to get real and realistic when we're talking about making social impact. It's one thing to create something, but it's another thing. It's another thing to create something that creates lasting impact. That's a whole new level, and it's also quite tough. But there's a way to do it. The second thing is about the third door, which is exploring some hidden opportunities in life. We sometimes are always going about that life has only two paths. So it's either you do A or you do B. You either accept or you reject, or you either go down this path or that. But the third door is this interesting concept that some successful people have used to basically influence change and make awesomeness happen. So I talked about personal brand a while ago, right? And this is really what a personal brand is, in my opinion. It's you conveying your passion, which is your ikigai, but also having the skills to do it. So let's say, for example, I figured out, I'm going to do sustainability consulting. I want to help these organizations be more sustainable. And I think that's my ikigai. I'm really happy doing that. But at the same time, if you don't have the skills to match up to that, you're not going to get very far, right? It's important for us to realize that passion and skill come hand to hand. We need to be at that capability level to truly have a brand where people are going to look at you and go, wow, he's passionate and he's amazing at what he does, and that's carrying things to the next level. Passion and skill, very important combination. And here's another truth bomb coming your way. The world has enough enthusiastic amateurs. That's really scary, right? I remember the first time I heard it, it was from someone who was really deep inside the social impact scene. She had spent decades of her time doing it, and she was talking about the climate crisis and, more importantly, how social systems right now are not, they're not working out for people. We're still seeing homeless people. We're still seeing a divide in income inequality. But no one's taking the time to really look at the deeper issues. We're kind of going about these random assumptions. And so we're falling into this enthusiastic amateur sort of category. An example is the climate change strikes that were happening around the world is a good sign that we're taking ownership to advocate for climate change. But what are we doing to minimize our footprint? And, so for example, I recently figured this out, but almond milk, which a lot of vegans and vegetarians drink, is actually really not sustainable. A lot of vegetarians go, it's horrible to drink cow's milk, like because of animal welfare issues. But almond, to even harvest an almond takes a gallon of water. That's extremely water intensive, and that actually leads to sustainability issues in terms of like environmental concerns, right? So it's not enough for us to be saying, I want to be vegetarian and I want to be vegan because it's good for the world. More importantly, it's about us really committing to something and going, I've done the research and I know that this is the best part for me, and this is the best way that's good for the planet and good for me. So again, the truth is the world has enough enthusiastic amateurs. We have to deepen our knowledge and understanding before, kind of like riding on that wave of emotion and doing our next campaign and initiative. It has to be thought through, and it has to be planned out. So the big question is, do I have the skills? And I actually think that even for me, that a lot of us don't have that skills. So for example, we want to start an initiative or a Facebook campaign, and we basically just go about doing it quickly. And we go about advocating for that cause, which might sound really good, but we're not sure about, like, what's a better way to do it, you know? And is this the right cause to be advocating? Do I know enough about this cause to be advocating for it? I think these are some of the bigger questions we have to challenge ourselves and see if we have the skills. Because what happens is, as much as you are really excited to talk about these things, we are also facing that disadvantage of not being skilled enough. And when you're not skilled enough and you talk to people who are older than you, they don't listen to you, right? So it's so important for us to even give us a chance of influencing the right people, to really have a good command of knowledge, and to have the right skills to implement the change. So knowledge and skills. And thankfully, there's a lot of platforms online which are completely free for us to have those skills and develop that content. So Coursera is one of those websites, completely free. You have online courses from leading universities teaching you anything from computer science to data to healthcare. And then you have edX, which looks at more of the social science part. They have a lot of courses in humanities and sustainability. And there's Acumen, which is focused a lot on social impact. So they have a lot of social impact frameworks to help you develop your social impact initiative or idea, to really allow you to think deeply about the impact you want to create. And that just brings your idea from a simple, I'm riding on my emotion and I'm doing this because I saw it on the news and it's not good for the environment. And it brings it to that whole new level of, I know what I'm doing. I know how to evaluate my impact. And, if I know how to do these things, this idea can continue to grow, this initiative can continue to grow. And I think everyone now is really talking about the sustainable development goals, but really, like, just think about it. Let's look at one of them. Let's look at life on land. What do we know about life on land? Do we know enough about biodiversity? We all know that we need to create a good habitat that's suitable for humans and animals to live. That's commonsensical, right? But what does it mean to create an environment where biodiversity is protected and where we create life on land? And that's a much harder question. It's a much deeper question. And SDG Academy is actually one of the platforms consulting massive groups of scientists and thought leaders to create online courses educating us on the SDGs. And my hope is that you try to look at one of them, maybe zero poverty that you're really interested in, or quality education that you're really interested in. So, sorry, excuse me. So next time someone looks at you and asks you about, hey, what are you doing in this space? You can kind of go, I recently went on this course and I know a lot more about this than I did before. And from there, I can figure out that, hey, I actually need to pay attention to these things. This is what quality education actually means. Whereas I thought it was A, B, and C beforehand. And that's going to change the direction you advocate for your initiatives, you advocate for your causes, and stuff like that. So the bottom line is to invest your time for connections and knowledge in the long term. I think a lot of us jump on this bandwagon, and we try to do all these amazing things, but in truth, we still don't know enough. And as youth, we are taking initiative to change and shape the world for the better. But we need to do it with science. We need to do it with skills. We need to do it with frameworks of thinking, so that we know what's our progress and how far we're doing things. And I think that's a really important point as well. And we're now going to talk about the third door. Feel free to pause and grab a drink, or I don't know, an apple or something, because I know I've been talking for a while, but we are sort of nearing the end. This is more of the networking side and more of your personal brand. So the third door, I'm going to read you a passage. Finding success is like trying to enter an exclusive nightclub. There are two main paths. The first door, where everyone waits in line and hopes to get in, and the second door, where the VIPs effortlessly slip through. What most people don't realize is there's always a third door, maybe sneaking through the cracked window in the back of the kitchen, or whatever it is, it would take resourcefulness and guts. This, Alex Banayan explains, is what the successful do. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything illegal. Like that's kind of what it suggests. But when you look at the context of the book itself, what Alex is really trying to tell us is to not see our world as through standard opportunities. If we really want to get in touch with the right people to put us in a position to create maximum impact, we have to be really resourceful, and we have to be quite persistent. And the solution is not always obviously there. So for example, if you are scaling up your business and you're applying for grants and it doesn't seem to be working out, maybe it's time to start networking with people in your community that feel a strong emotional connection with what you do, and ask them, hey, like I'm crowdfunding for $500 to make this work. Would you be interested to be a part of this? That's the third door, right? It's not a conventional opportunity out there. It's not something that we typically offer, but it's an opportunity for you to find what you need, which is the $500. And so that's what the third door is. It's the unconventional way of finding new opportunities. From the third door sort of example, there's 3 lessons we can learn that maybe you can keep at the back of your mind as you're scaling your initiatives, or as you are thinking about your purpose and setting up your idea. And this is something that I'm at the stage at right now as I start a new idea. So the first lesson is persistence is a consistent factor in all the most successful people's careers. They didn't do it overnight. They had a balance between persistence and rudeness, right? There's one thing that's kind of going, hey, I saw you the other day. Can you give me the money? And there's a balance between, hey, I met up with you the other day. It was really cool what you're doing. Can we get a coffee and can we just chat? Because I have a really amazing idea that I think would interest you. And that's kind of being polite, but also being persistent, because you're kind of always, you're keeping your idea at the back of your head, but you're not being rude about how you sell the idea. The second lesson is to push yourself beyond where you are comfortable. And the moons will never align perfectly. I think we always have this idea of now is the perfect timing. Or maybe 1 month later is the perfect timing. Or maybe the next month is the perfect timing. There's never the best time for us to start, but to start, the best time to start is really now, right? And it's easier said than done, because I'm always questioning whether I should start my initiatives right now or get more research. But sometimes it's really maybe start with 5 people and see how that goes. And maybe it's not as good, then change it a little bit. and reach out to another 5 people, and then change it a little bit. But it's kind of like this stage of finding constructive criticism and pushing yourself beyond where you are comfortable, right? Because when we are uncomfortable, we're learning. And so it's not always, don't wait for the point where, after 2 years and you finally go, okay, I'm going to try it out now. And you're completely comfortable. And instead, maybe we can actually start like 2 months in, formulate a solid idea, talk to some people, give it a shot. And, like, we're youth, we have years to go. We don't ever need to, stop, we shouldn't have a fear of failure in that sense. Whoop. Second. Lesson 3 is, unless you define success in your own way, you never find the right third door. And to follow your ikigai, and I think that's really important. We've talked about ikigai as a framework of defining purpose. And everyone's purpose is completely different from the rest. If you're following your brother or your sister's purpose in medicine or in some other field, but you don't like it or you don't feel love for it, then what's the point in the end? Because you're fulfilling their purpose. Your success is what they see as successful, but you'll never be happy with that success. And so I think it's really about us going through this stage of reflection, right? That brings us one step closer to purpose. And then us realizing that we need to define success in our own way. Maybe success for you is going to every country and creating a scrapbook of memories from every country you visited. Maybe that's success for you. Maybe it's being a CEO at a major company and influencing major stakeholders to change and transform communities. Or maybe it's transforming your community in your country or your town or or municipality. And there's like different ways of like framing success, and you eventually know what success is right for you. And so the thing is, if we don't define success the right way, we'll never find our right third door. You'll be creating someone else's third door. You'll be creating opportunities for someone else's reality, and you won't be happy at the very end. So it's important to find our kind of purpose, our respective purpose, and work towards it. Yeah, and so I think that these are the 3 best ways for us to continue to strengthen our initiative and get new ideas. Now, I have to acknowledge that I come from quite a privileged background, and there are, for the listeners with more limited access to technology, I do acknowledge that I do fall short in terms of what I can recommend over here. But I think, for example, that while we don't have, let's say, for example, you might not have strong networking events. Maybe you can rely on the power of your community. Maybe you might not have social media tools like LinkedIn, but maybe there are community events that are focused around your cause of women empowerment, for example, or energy efficiency. But I guess like the 3 things that I found really useful is firstly LinkedIn, which is a social media allowing you to connect with people with common interests. A lot of people see it as this really geeky tool and they're like, oh, it's for old people. But in fact, LinkedIn is this really interesting and hip social media that really allows you to connect with anyone on your cause, like be it sustainability, women empowerment, AI, ethics, and I think it's really interesting that we have that. And if you don't have that form of social media, maybe, as I said, community events that really bring us together. And it ties into the networking events, right? If you're over there, it's so important to know your ikigai and then present yourself. It really leaves this lasting impression, right? So if you're setting in a zero waste initiative and you know clearly your ikigai, you really present yourself so much clearer when you're trying to get the support of people. And I think the last thing is coffee chats. These are basically chats where it's one-to-one and you learn things from people. I think that's awesome. The fastest way to learn more about others' awesomeness. Everyone else has different experiences, and we're not expected to know everything, right? I think that's something that we always, the burden we put on ourselves, which is that we need to know everything. In truth, we really don't. We actually only need to know 10% and find 9 other people who know 10% each as well to figure out that whole 100%. So find time to like kind of talk to someone. It might be someone who, even if someone's really busy, maybe like sending them a message or an email, and saying, hi, I really, really love the work that you're doing. I was wondering if you had a pocket of time or you had 15 to 20 minutes for a quick chat on this. It would just really help me out. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And from there, you're going to learn from their failures. You're going to learn the skills you need to survive in, the business you're working on or the initiative that you're working on. It's so important to get connected. Networking is that really important step. And so, sorry about that. And so that really sums it up, right? We first talked about Ikigai in the first part with passion. And then the second part that we're talking about is skill. It's about reskilling so that we actually have the expertise to deal with our passion. That we don't only, that we're not only able to say, I love ABC, but also I've been working a lot and I've been putting a lot of effort in ABC such that I'm ready to push this initiative, And so passion and skill is your personal brand. It's basically what people will talk about you when you've left, So right now for me, because I'm so passionate about sustainability, but I'm also working towards a career in sustainability and I'm reading up and I'm sharing with people whenever I leave, and someone mentions, do you know anyone that does sustainability? People actually think about me and kind of go, we actually know this random friend who's just been doing it for a while now, and he's actually quite, he's a bit more knowledgeable than I am. Do you want to talk to him? So that's your personal brand, which is the most important thing, because you're not going to be doing the selling. Your friends or your peers or your connections can do the selling for you. So passion and skill, very important combination. And I'm nearing the end, and so I would like to conclude with another quote, which is, today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. It's by Dr. Seuss. So remember your creativity, remember your purpose, that you are special and everyone is special. I know, like, especially I had a tough time in an Asian country because I grew up kind of believing that I should follow the pack. But sometimes it, like when you take that courageous step to exploring your purpose and your ikigai, it brings you to that next step and next level where you understand just how unique and amazing you are. Everyone's filled with awesomeness, everyone can create impact. But remember that it is a journey. We will take a while to figure this out. But you don't need to get it right on the first try. And that's it, But you're amazing. And so here's a side question. Firstly, thank you so much for listening. I don't even know how long I've been going on for, quite a while, but hopefully it is all good. I hope you learned something on that. And yeah, I am actually running a podcast idea. It's still an idea. We're still formulating how it looks like on 3 very different ideas: colonization, sustainability, ethics, and AI. We are, we're forming this group that uses a skill set called systems thinking, where we see things as not linear, but we see things as a whole system and how things are interrelated. And we feel that exploring these 3 topics, that they're all interrelated. That our colonial past affects the sustainable future that we are having right now, And that also affects the ethics that we are going to consider in AI. So it's still a preliminary idea, but if you are interested in one or even more of these topics, and you have an idea on how to make this work, or like maybe contacts that could really be interesting, maybe a lecturer or like a professor, someone who's like really esteemed in your country, send me an email. I really love to hear from you. And it's just we're hoping to create some awesome ideas. We are doing a bit of research on how this can work out. But yeah, just let us know. We'd be super keen to connect. Oop. And that's my last slide. If you have any questions, feel free to email me on anything regarding your purpose. If you want to rant, oh, you can just call me, honestly. We can just like do a Skype call or something. And I can't find the way for you, but I can certainly talk through it with you. And we can always find something to start from. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, feel free to search Wei Heng Pok. And you should be able to see me inside. My title does say Global Changemaker 2019, so that makes it a bit easier for you to find me. But that is it. Yeah, thank you so much for bearing with me. I hope this has been valuable for you. And yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, finding a purpose is really amazing. It's this great journey that will pay dividends in your life. When you actually bring your heart to whatever you do because you found your purpose, people are going to be amazed by what you do. They're going to be like, wow, that person's really, really, really remarkable and doing some amazing stuff. So don't be afraid, like to start that journey. It's not going to be easy, but that's the whole point. It's no good journey is easy, right? Look at all your movies of like people surviving crazy stuff in their lives. They go through a lot of tribulations. They go through so many conflicts in their lives, but that's what makes them amazing. That's part of their awesomeness, right? And so that's a bit from me. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to send me any questions that you might have. More than happy to help. And with that, take care. Have an amazing day or night, wherever you're from. And that's all for me. Kia ora and cheers. See ya.